I'm excited to share another part of my toy room with you, and yeah, dig into the wonder of action figures together. So let's get right into part 3 of the toy room tour. So this is where I want to start next. This is my very minimal Hawkman display. I have a lot more Hawkman action figures than this, but the other Hawkman action figures that I have are almost always in Justice League displays, some of which you can see in part 1 and part 2 of the tour. And so these are, however, sort of miscellaneous Hawkman figures that don't really have a place in any of those. Hawkman, as I think I've mentioned, is my number 2 favorite DC character of all time. I won't go into like all the specifics of why, except to say that I really think the helmeted visage is such a really cool like image. His costume is sort of like bright, lively, and he's just, in my opinion, probably one of the greatest warriors in the entire DC universe, except, maybe excepting Wonder Woman. He's might be the best. And I also love like the sort of the medieval weaponry that he uses. I think that's always so cool how he can dig into his collection to find a new piece of medieval weaponry with which to fight crime. The one in the middle has exactly three pieces of medieval weaponry. One is the net that you see draped across his shoulder. That is actually a Lego net. It did not come with the figure, but it works really well for this guy. And then on his, left hand is the Claw of Horus, which is actually accurate to the source material. This figure is based on Hawkman's appearance in Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, and was made by DC Direct. So the Claw of Horus was something that Hawkman used against, I think it was Superman in Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, when Hawkman was sort of drafted by Lex Luthor. And it's a really cool design for the Claw of Horus. It looks really, really neat on his hand. It does come off, so if you don't want to have it on there, you don't have to have it on there, but I think it looks really nice. And then he also comes to that huge, giant mace, the largest mace you've ever seen. Can you imagine how scary it would be to have someone come at you with that mace and those wings? Very frightening. So I really like this figure a lot. He really represents like a strong, beefy, bulky Hawkman, but as such, it's sort of hard to display him with other displays because, well, for one, he has very like cartoonish art, but also because he's so big that he doesn't really fit in with too many others. The one on the right is the Batman Shadow Tech Hawkman from the action figure line, from Mattel's action figure line of the Batman cartoon that ran from 2004 to 2008. I really love that cartoon. And in the 5th season, Hawkman appeared alongside Batman in one of the episodes. And I really like sort of the design of the figure. It's a little bit different from the comic book appearance, although not that much different. And yeah, I think he looks really cool. Obviously, he models the cartoon style of the show, so he's not like the most realistic figure in the world, but I don't mind that at all. And I think he looks really nice. And then the one on the left is actually not a Hawkman at all, but a Thanagarian Wingman that came in like the Mattel 3 3/4 inch line. And yeah, I think he looks pretty cool. Don't really have any place to put him, but I think it looks pretty cool. And then I just wanted to show you that I put like this poster. You can't see all of the poster, but I put this poster, Joe Kubert poster of Hawkman above them because I love Joe Kubert's Hawkman. Definitely far and away my favorite iteration of Hawkman. If you're a Hawkman fan, or if you don't know very much about Hawkman, I recommend reading the Silver Age Joe Kubert Hawkman because I think it's really quite riveting and quite good and very classic. But then moving on to the next display, this is the my new 52 DC collectibles display. So we're going to move in a little bit closer here, but you can see these are all the new 52 figures that I have. DC Collectibles made quite a few more that you don't see here. I actually do have some villains that you don't see here as well. But I have quite a few of them. Certainly don't have all of them, or maybe even not a majority of them, but I do have those core 7 at the front, and those are definitely my favorite of this whole bunch. The main main 7 that made up the original New 52 Justice League, which, if you haven't read Justice League Origin, you absolutely need to, by Jeff Johnson, Jim Lee. Just a fantastic book. And quick digression here. When my brother and I were really young, like 11 or 12, that was when we were like really embracing and getting into the DC universe. And of course, that coincided with the beginning of the New 52. So the New 52 for us is sort of like our golden age. It's obviously not the golden age of comics, but it's like where our love for DC Comics really blossomed and really grew. And so I remember reading that book, Justice League Origin, when it first came out in the hardcover form, and just being blown away and having to get all these figures because we were just so excited about the New 52 and that sort of thing. And I think these figures really stand up well. I mean, they don't have a lot of articulation, but they are very aesthetically pleasing. And I tried to set up the core 7 in the front to model Jim Lee's art. So you can see here, here's Jim Lee's representation of them. And then for the most part, they're in the same poses here as they are here. So I'm very happy with how I sort of set them up there. And I think they look really nice. And then moving backward, I won't talk about all the figures, but Green Arrow's a very nice figure if you're looking to get him. He's really nice. He comes with some extra arrows. And just a very crisp, clean looking figure. Martian Manhunter is even better than the McFarlane Toys. Martian Manhunter, I like him a lot. Captain Cold is really cool. I liked the New 52 redesign of Captain Cold, where he sort of ditched his freeze gun and had the ability to just project ice from his hands. Other than that, you see some Teen Titans members behind them. That's actually Batgirl behind Stargirl, but you can't really see it very well. And then let's see if I have another picture here. And then, oh yeah, you can see Batgirl. Now, that's the Mattel Batgirl, not the DC Collectibles Batgirl, so she's a little small. But then in the back, you have some Earth 2 figures. The figures themselves, to me, weren't all that amazing, but the storyline, the Earth 2 storyline, was really wonderful. So I love the sort of the New 52 iteration of Earth 2. Some very original art and ideas there. But then moving on to the next display, we have my Watchmen display. I do have the Mattel DC Universe Classics Watchmen, but you'll see them later. This is instead the DC Essentials Doomsday Clock series. But I really like the display here. So you have the cases, and then you have the cases, and then the, I guess, inner packaging from the Mattel Matty Collector Watchmen series behind these guys. And I think it looks really nice. Moving in for a little bit of a closer look on the figures themselves, although I am really happy with the entire display. I love the DC Essentials figures. I mean, I raved about the DC Essentials figures, and I think part 2 of the videos, but anyway, I just absolutely adore these figures. And you know, if you look at, for example, Rorschach, you can see the detail that's evident on him, on the cape, all the different folds. They did just a stunning job with him. The grapple gun looks really nice. Head sculpt looks really nice. And the hat does come off. So all these figures to me just look exactly how they should. And they actually look much better than the Mattel DC Universe Classics ones, in my opinion. Although I will say that Mattel DC Universe Classics did give us a complete Watchmen. So they gave us, you know, all 6 members of the Watchmen, whereas this one only gives us 4. So it leaves out Silk Spectre and Night Owl and Ops instead, to give us the characters that were more central to Doomsday Clock, Mime and Marionette, that you see here. And these figures are as well very great. And if you're wondering why Mime's hands are open, that's because he had like invisible guns. And so, you know, the whole idea was that he's like miming guns, but that the guns actually were real. Like the guns actually like shot people and things in the book. And anyways, that was pretty cool. And then Marionette, she's supposed to have like this wire, this really thin wire between her hands. So her hands are always like this. And then she like cuts with this wire. She cuts, you know, people's limbs off, or like she cut, which is very graphic, where she cuts like, you know, whatever, you know, wood or something. I don't know if she needs to get into a door, she'll cut the door open or something like that. And obviously, you know, kind of violent, but it's but that was her whole story. And I like those characters created by Jeff Johns in the Doomsday Clock storyline. And then the comedian, he just looks utterly spectacular. This was before the whole like no guns thing was handed down from Warner Brothers to McFarlane Toys. So so he does have, you know, he does have those guns. and they go into his holsters as well. So he looks really, really cool. I would have enjoyed it if they had like released a masked variant or something like that, or maybe another masked head with him so you could have the mask if you wanted the mask. But he didn't have the mask in Doomsday Clock, so I understand why they didn't do that. But he looks really nice as well. The next display here, this time we're moving from right to left, strangely enough. You can see over in the far right corner there, I have like some Green Lantern rings. You can't see them very well, but maybe, oh, no. Anyway, you can't see them very well, but they're really, really great Green Lantern rings that you can wear. But moving into the figures themselves, this is like sort of my Silver Age display, Silver Age DC Direct display. And this display is not like an intentional display by any means. In other words, I don't like collect figures just for this display. This is more like just made up of extra figures I have lying around. And some of them are a little bit beat up, from back when I was like actually playing with action figures. I don't play with them anymore, but when I was young, all the action figures were ones that I played with. And now, the vast majority of them I bought solely for collection. But moving in a little, actually, I don't want to move in that close just yet. So some figures to highlight here. So you have Superman in the middle. He is the DC Direct. I want to say like early 2000s Superman series. He's okay. I don't love his head sculpt. He looks a little chubby to me. He has a lot of articulation. Unfortunately, the articulation is very flimsy. So like, it doesn't keep him up very well. But he's still a pretty good Superman, definitely reminiscent of the John Byrne Superman. That Aquaman's from Super Friends. That Batman is a Darwin Cook Batman. It's a very, very nice figure. I like that figure a lot. It's from the Justice League, the New Frontier animated movie. The Flash is the Crisis on Infinite Earths Flash. He's okay. He's mediocre. Green Lantern, he's from that Starro 5-pack I was talking about in part 1. And he's not very good. He's a pretty bad figure, quite honestly. And then looking at some of the figures in the back, so there's the Kid Flash in the way back there. He came with the Flash in a 2-pack. And then you have Elongated Man. That's the DC Direct Elongated Man, which is a really, really great figure, probably the best Elongated Man figure ever made, which I have a soft spot in my heart for Elongated Man because he appeared in some very early Silver Age comics with the Flash. And so he was like Flash's first like superhero friend in the comics, even before Green Lantern. And those were comics I always really enjoyed, were team ups between the Flash and Elongated Man, since the Flash is my third favorite figure. So again, I have a really soft spot in my heart for Elongated Man, and that figure really does him justice, far more than the Mattel DC Universe Classics one, although I do have that one. The Shazam in the middle, you can see his hair is a bit scuffed up, but I really love that figure. He just is very, very reminiscent of the CC Beck Shazam, and he's just a great all-around figure. I would love to get a mint one of him, but he's probably getting a little expensive these days. But probably the best Shazam action figure ever made, or Captain Marvel, if you prefer. And then Mr. Miracle, he's a great Mr. Miracle from the DC Direct Jack Kirby series. That Black Canary is a really, really nice Black Canary, except that she can't stand. Although I like that she's sort of in her canary cry pose. You can't see it very well, but she is like screaming. You can see maybe, no, not really. Anyway, she's in her canary cry pose. She's a bit like a posable statue because she has very, very limited articulation, but she looks really nice. Dr. Fate, fairly good Dr. Fate, very Silver Age Dr. Fate, but actually I lost his helmet. He came with 2 helmets and I lost both of them because this was when I was younger and I wasn't paying attention to parts. So anyway, unfortunately he doesn't have his helmet, which is like one of the things that makes Dr. Fate Dr. Fate. And then the last figure I really want to highlight here is the DC Direct Silver Age Hawkman, based on the art of Joe Kubert. This is a very, very early Silver Age, even before he got the wings on his helmet. But it looks really nice. I mean, it's like ripped right out of the pages of a Brave and the Bold comic from the 60s. The very early 60s, I might add. And then the 2 accessories he has did not actually come with the figure. That's another Lego net, and the Spear came with a DC Universe Classics Hawk Girl. But a very, very nice looking figure. Definitely one of like the crispest, cleanest figures I own, and I'm happy to say so. And then this is the Justice League of America, Mattel, something, 3 3/4 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, Starro the Conqueror 5-pack or 6-pack, if you include Starro, say that 5 times fast. And anyway, so it has it's basically like the first appearance of the Justice League 5-pack, right, or 6-pack. And so you have the founding members of the Justice League there, as well as Starro. And this is significant because this is the very first Starro action figure ever made, and he actually fits in okay with a 6-inch line. So if you wanted to take him out of the package and display him with your like Mattel DC Universe Classics figures, you could do that. I've kept him in here because the problem is once you take him out, then all of like the wiring and the display and the way this is laid out, it doesn't work anymore. And so I just basically kept this mint on card. I haven't taken out any of the figures. I haven't taken out Starro. And you see the flashing lights here because there's a little button on the bottom that you can press, and it'll actually talk, and the lights will flash, and it'll sort of introduce the comic book, and it'll talk about each individual character. And it's very, very cool. So definitely not going to like take these out anytime soon. And that's part of the reason why I was so happy to see that McFarlane Toys was coming out with the Starro action figure, because now I can pose McFarlane Toys' Starro action figure with my DC Universe Classics and still keep this one in its original packaging. So a very, very cool set. I think I got it for something like $150. So not bad, but not a great price, but not bad at all. And yeah, the figures are really nice as well. The Flash and Aquaman especially are really, really awesome. I love the way those figures look. Green Lantern not so much, but the Flash and Aquaman look really, really great. Oh yeah, I was just zooming in on these figures because Aquaman is basically like a miniaturized version of the DC Universe Classics one, and I just love like how much his head looks like the DCUC head. And then Wonder Woman looks really nice. She has very little articulation, but she looks really nice. Green Lantern's head sculpt leaves a lot to be desired. That's why I don't really like it. And also you can note the weird articulation where like he has wrist articulation, or I don't know what you call that, wrist articulation. Anyway, wrist articulation, but it like breaks like between the gloves. So it doesn't break like right at the wrist. It breaks like in a really weird spot. So he's not a great figure. He does come with that cool construct though. It's cool how Wonder Woman's lasso is wrapped around one of the Starro's arms. Martian Mantra's actually Martian Mantra's very good too. And then the Flash he's just amazing. I love that Flash action figure. And then this brings us pretty much to the end. This is the just some very random figures I have that don't really fit in any particular place.